Hello, everybody, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World, brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Visit them on the web at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. I am your host, Ryno Clavin, and this week I am joined by none other than Deni Sunderly.
Hi there.
And we are here to do the flip of our last week's topic, which was the best attraction at each of the Walt Disney World parks. So we are here to talk about what we feel like is the worst attraction in each one of the Walt Disney World theme parks. I know this is going to be tough for you, Deni.
It is. It is. Although I have a list, Rhino. I came prepared.
I want to say before we get started that it is if we say this is the worst and you still enjoy it, that's okay. That's okay.
Yes.
I know that some I say people are going to love and they'll have a great time on it, but it's hard when you have so many like great attractions that there's always one at the other side of the list. That's just how it goes, you know?
That's exactly right.
It's hard because it's also very subjective, right? But okay, well, I guess let's just dive in. What park are we thinking we want to start at first?
Let's go for the big kahuna. Let's go for Magic Kingdom.
Okay. Actually, this one was a little tough for me.
Okay.
I feel like because there was like one or two where I was like maybe, but I'm gonna make you go first.
Okay. All right. Thanks. For me, it's the first one that came to mind. And after perusing the list and thinking even more, it still stayed at the top of the pile. It is the Magic Carpets of Aladdin in Adventureland. In my mind, it's right at the top of the pile for the worst.
Okay, yeah, I have to say I went back and forth between Carpets and Speedway. Because Speedway for me is just one of those where it's just so loud. It takes so long to get on it. I wish those cars were like electric, and if they're not electric, then I don't know what is going on with them because it smells like that is where the hole in the ozone layer came from. But I'm like, well, it's like that classic. Where else do you get a go-kart attraction anywhere? Like yes, that it is not on that Disney caliber because you can get it at your local amusement or like little theme park or something like that. But I think I leaned more toward Speedway than Carpets, but Carpets is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, there is an exact same just ride mechanism over at Dumbo. We have it in Dumbo. In fact, we have two Dumbos now. So
Yeah.
twice the Dumbo we originally had, we've got it in Storybook Circus. And the way that Magic Carpets congests Adventureland is just ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
we need more space to be able to roam or to sit down and eat our Dole Whip or our citrus swirl. Like, we just something else themed there in the middle. And speaking of theming, Magic Carpets really doesn't go
Yeah.
along with the theming of
Yeah,
Adventureland.
exactly.
I know they've tried to make the merchandise shop themed to Agrabah, but I think it's a stretch.
Yeah, it feels very plopped in the middle of somewhere it shouldn't be. Like it literally feels like this one little circle that you could pop up and be like, "Oh, this all makes way more sense visually and aesthetically and all that sort of a thing." And like so it just feels like such a sour, I don't know, just not a good, especially considering Aladdin is one of those like beloved classic animated movies at this point. I feel like I'm saying that at this point it is. The 90s was a long time ago now. So it's just one of those where I feel like it also is a disservice to the movie it comes from. Like, I get it. You're like, oh, Magic Carpet themed ride, but come on, we can do better. If we've got two Little Mermaid attractions at Walt Disney World, we can have another better Aladdin attraction somewhere. That movie does not get the respect it deserves in the theme parks, to be honest with you. I don't think,
Well, and I like Speedway. I'm one of the, I know it's not environmentally sound. I know its carbon footprint is ginormous. But I do really like Speedway, and it's so much fun. I mean, just being on it when my kids were little, and the fact that they could go, "Oh my gosh, I get to drive a car!" Like you said, it's a unique experience. Where else are you going to do that, especially on Walt Disney World property? Like, so I kept it. That's why we can duplicate the experience of Magic Carpets of Aladdin. We can't dupe Speedway.
I think my biggest complaint with Speedway, I think ultimately for me, why I would definitely lean toward Magic Carpets definitely being worse, is that Speedway could still be what it is. It just needs it doesn't fit Tomorrowland because it feels something retro, like backwards. I mean, if you want to make it a retroactive look at the future from the 50s perspective, that's a different story, but even then I would say, like, then the cars should look different. The cars should have a little more fun flair to them. They should be electric at this point. That, if we're going for it. But so it's like it can still be transformed into a great thing, whereas Aladdin is like what you said. It is literally just plopped here, and we already have now 2 of that same attraction in that same park. It doesn't need to be there. You won me over. It is. You're right. It was. I should have just went with the instinct and went with carpet. So let's pop over to Epcot and see what we have here. I'm going to be really interested to see what you have, because for me, it's Journey into Imagination. Like, when I said worst attraction at Walt Disney in each park, I immediately was like, well, I already know what Epcot is. I'll have to think on the other parks. Like, and I know people love whatever the original version was. That's fine. You can love an original version of an attraction, but I have no recollection of that original attraction. And anybody coming in the last however many years doesn't know that original attraction either. And this version of it is just like, it feels so cheap. It's like none of the set decorating inside of there is very impressive. It feels very dated. I mean, there is like one cool part, I guess, when it all flips in the dark, but like it feels so lazy, especially in the real estate that it's in that gorgeous, building. And it just is not, you're touting this as your attraction is called Journey into Imagination, and it is one of the least imaginative attractions there is. I feel like there's so much irony in this attraction, and I get it. People love Figment. I don't love Figment, but that's fine. Like, I don't hate him. I just don't. My knowledge of him is from this attraction, so I find him annoying. But I don't know. That's just for me. It just doesn't. It just doesn't cut it. I don't know.
Yeah, Ryno, Journey is mine as well.
Okay.
We are of the same mind on this. I recently wrote an article called "What Should We Do with Figment?" And in that article, I open up the conversation. And I know it's a conversation that's been had for years, but here's the thing. I've never really been to that point where I thought, yeah, I could entertain the thought of doing something else with this pavilion. I would love if we rewound things and we went back to the original, if we had a walk around Dreamfinder carrying Figment again at the Imagination Pavilion. I think that would just be the coolest thing. But honestly, and it was right before, it was the same day I was meeting up with you to do a live stream in Epcot. Mm-hmm. I had some extra time and some things I needed to do. And so I was zipping around the park, and I just stood there in front of the Imagination Pavilion and just looked at it for a few minutes. And I kind of, I know they're having an open house and at the Institute, and that's why we've got the sign, the attraction sign that looks like it's a banner that's been, strung to the building, but that sign looks so worn and faded. And same with the ImageWorks sign. And see, I remember
Deni, I didn't even know that was. I honest to God, didn't even know that was part of the story. I just always see it and just think, like, why is there a sign up there? Like, I can't believe that. You've just I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there is intentionality behind it, but I think that intentionality has had its heyday, and I think it's time to actually really think about what to do. Now, I don't want to get rid of Figment. I like Figment. I know he was created for that pavilion because Kodak was the money behind that pavilion, and so that's why he got his colors. Those are the Kodak colors. Like that's.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, he was intentionally designed for Kodak for that pavilion. So let's figure out something, if I don't know if Inside Out comes, but as soon as like I go in there and I go on that attraction with my niece and nephew and I just go, yeah, this is good. And then you get in there and you go, oh, I want to like it. I
Yeah.
really do. And it's falling short right now, and it's a little bit sad.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate the song too at the end. I don't
Oh,
not. I mean,
oh
no
no.
shame on Eric Idle and the Spark. I just don't. I don't like it. I don't.
Oh,
I agree with you though about Figment not going away. I'm not saying get rid of Figment. I'm not even saying this can't be a Figment attraction. It can be like, if you want to make it something where it's, it's journey into imagination, maybe it's about the biggest imaginators we've had. That's not a word, but people, the biggest dreamers or whatever we've had in human history. It could be like similar to how Spaceship Earth is about like communication evolving. We could have something where, it's all these big people who imagine things, Steve Jobs talking about an iPod, or stuff like that. And like, people that pushed us into where we are now, stuff like that. And I know people are going to be mad that I just said Steve Jobs,
well,
but he was the dreamer. He had the imagination.
yeah.
He might not have been the inventor, but he's the man who made it what we have today. I'm sorry that.
It's so funny that you say that, because I think even if we don't use the, real life people who
Yeah.
have been really imaginative in their lives, their careers, and what they've done. Like I walk by those, or we drive. We're at one point we're in the attraction vehicle and we're kind of going past some office doors, and even as you walk the queue, you're going past office doors, and you can hear phones ringing,
Mhm.
and you can see flubber flying around. Like I want to see inside those offices.
Yeah.
So why couldn't we? Why couldn't we see
Oh.
inside of some of the Disney characters from those films that we love? Why couldn't we? We could be going into Professor Brainerd's lab.
Yeah.
We could, instead of the five senses labs, we could. So there is IP there that can be harvested, and I would love to see that. That
Yeah.
would be, because I walk past those doors or go past those doors, and I just go, I want to see what's going on in there.
Yeah. I do think it was one of those tragic mistakes. One of the few times they didn't really nail in that IP a little heavier. We could have had Robin Williams in this instead of Eric Idle. Not to say that Eric Idle isn't a legend in his own right, but it was just one of those where imagine if this had been like Flubber and he had created, and it was him who had created Figment, or if it had been that would have been something else, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's where do you want to go next? Let's go to Animal Kingdom, huh?
Let's do that.
Let's see where we sit at Animal Kingdom. I'm curious.
So it's tempting to go Triceratops spin. It's so tempting, especially with throwing out Aladdin, Magic Carpets of Aladdin. But I'm not going there, because the children need their attraction.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Stand up for the 5-year-olds in the group, those and adults who still really like Triceratops spin. But for me, it's tough to be a bug. That's where I'm going. It's tough to be a bug.
Oh my gosh.
While Bug's Life was great in its day and time, it's a little anachronistic at this point, and it's a little scary. It's always been a little anxiety producing, because it gets dark, and then spoiler alert, for anybody who's never gone on it, but there are bugs that crawl along the back of your seat at one point, and it's enough to make you come out of your seat if you're not ready for it. I just, when you're talking about the icon of the park, the tree of life, I think whatever is inside of it needs to probably just progress and evolve a little bit and be a headliner. And unfortunately, It's Tough to Be a Bug is no longer that.
It's funny. I think that every time I go in that attraction, I always think to myself, like, they kind of back themselves into a corner here because this is, what kind of construction can they do? This is in the base of a tree, so whatever is
Right.
going to be in there is always going to be in that same showroom. I'm sure they can change the showroom one way or another. I don't, honestly, I have no idea how the tree is constructed, so I could be way off and all of that sort of stuff, but I it's weird. I still like I enjoy the Hopper animatronic and right, that's his name. The
Yes,
yeah,
Hopper. Hmm.
and but yeah, I agree. It's one of those where I won't really ever go to it unless like somebody's like, "Let's go," and I'm always
Yeah.
afraid the stinger is going to hurt my back. But the um. That's not the one I picked though. But I did consult some friends about this before we started, and both of them said tough to be a bug, but they also said my other one,
Okay.
which is the one I said, which I think Cali River Rapids is horrible.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's my number two.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so there you go. Hmm.
I guess I felt bad about Tough to Be a Bug because it is a draw like for younger kids, for everybody of all ages, but you're right, it does have that extreme part of it. But for me, Cali River Rapids is just like my first experience, like my first real experience at Animal Kingdom was me going and waiting in that line for like 90 minutes to be like, this ride was 2 seconds long. There was a giant fire. And it was 110 degrees outside. And I did not even get wet once. The one time I went on it, that time I went on it. I mean, I got wet on it before, but like, um, and I always have that memory. And now the flame effect doesn't even work anymore. They don't even use it. So it's literally
Mm.
just I have been to better river rapid attractions at Six Flags, Canopy Lake Park, these regional theme parks.
King's Dominion.
Then like that's I feel like kind of shameful for Disney that it feels like a bait and switch. And so I never did the one at Disney California Adventure, the Grizzly River Rapids, because I was like, no, well, if the other one's terrible, this one's probably terrible. That one's way better. I didn't even know you go through the mouth of the mountain in that.
Really?
So yeah, it was cool. Although I did get soaked, and I wasn't. But I was staying. That was one of those. I've stayed at the Grand California like twice, I think, for like because the I was out there working, doing something for Disneyland with the Diz, and I was like, thank God I have this hotel room because I'm walking right here, right into the front door and up to my room. And I changed because I was like, I do not like being wet at all. And so, I mean, if we're swimming in a pool, that's fine, but I'm not walking around a theme park soaking wet. But yeah, I just feel like Cali River Rapids is still just one of those, it's a disappointment and you're just set up for disappointment. I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, you do learn a lot about deforestation though. So if you want to learn a little bit about how the forests are burning or going away, there you go. I mean, the queue, I do like the queue. At least, I mean, it's been years and years since I've been on it. But the queue back in the day was really, really neat. I went on it for the sake of my son. He wanted to go. No one else in the group wanted to go. And so that's when I brought like Target plastic bags in my park bag with me. And I got in the boat and tied them around my feet. And
That's
I was
smart.
the only one willing to go with them because it's just not something that grandma and grandpa want to do.
Yeah.
It's not something that mom and dad are necessarily, because you might get really wet.
Yeah, like really wet.
Yeah. So yeah, that's, like I said, that was number 2 on my animal.
It's like all or
kingdom list.
nothing on that attraction. I feel like you're either
Yes.
soaking wet or bone dry. And it's funny though. The queue my friend did bring up where he was saying that queue that queue doesn't get enough credit. It always gets Everest. They always talk about Everest, and he says, well, it was really originally done at Cali River Rapids, and then Everest
Yep.
just kind of copied that. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really interesting. Maybe he
Yeah,
should have hosted this show and not me.
Oh, no, it's a great queue. It's super, super detailed, and you can walk the queue and then scoot. You don't have to ride the ride. So if you've never seen the queue, go for it.
Okay, we're gonna go over Hollywood Studios now. Big moment
Yeah.
here.
Right.
If Lights,
Ryno.
Motors, Action were still around, I'd say Lights, Motors, Action. But no, actually, I don't think I would, because when I realized the one that is over here that I'm going to say, I was like, no, I disagree with this attraction on like a fundamental level. But what's yours, Deni?
Yeah, I had to go with Ryno. sitting down and looking at the list, I went, oh no. Because like I enjoy everything, and I enjoy everything in the park, all the attractions. I think they've got a really good thing going right now. They just do.
Yeah.
But there is one that really kind of rose to the surface with me, and it was Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy.
That's what I picked too.
All right. There it is. There it
That's
is.
so funny.
I mean,
we should tell people we didn't say to each other what the attractions were ahead of time. We are finding out right now. So
we didn't. Yeah, it's that it is an experience that's built around one really, really great animatronic. I mean, that animatronic, there is no, I would love to hear from someone who said that wasn't a good one, because then we would talk, because there's hardly any way you could sit there and say, yeah, that's just okay. No, it's a fantastic animatronic, but it's an entire little show, an entire thing based around one. And I mean, it's good. It's some air conditioning. It's a people eater, but at the end of the day, when you have these amazing cutting edge attractions that you kind of put it against, it's the one that goes for me.
I think I'm like offended by Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy as the proposition that it's even an actual attraction. Like I think what angers me to no end is it's plopped inside of a building. And if anybody remembers, this was like a convention space or event space. It was the same building that you would have went to if you had gone to the, oh my God, what was that Halloween thing I wanted them to bring back so bad?
The villains.
Yeah. The like villains dinner thing. I forget. Yeah. But that thing was amazing, and I wish they had just kept that there. But so they basically like plopped in some benches and got a cool animatronic and some big screens. It's a 1% attraction. They thought the attraction through 1%, made 1%. That 1% was Lightning McQueen's animatronic, which is really good. And then the rest, they were like, it's like they had an animatronic and they were just like, we don't really know what to do with this. And they're like, okay, well, we've got an empty room. If we can get it working, we could probably just put it in there with TV screens and put benches. Like, why not just fold out chairs at this point? It's just not. What scares me about that attraction is that is not the Disney way. You know, the Disney way is theming. It is, and you know, sometimes there are not everything has to be Pandora or Galaxy's Edge or even Toy Story Land. You know, not everything has to be this like incredibly themed place. It can just be an attraction, but it doesn't matter. I think about like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, how much of that is built into the building it is, and how much they basically say they made the story around it, which I still don't completely understand that, but the more you look at that, the more you can poke holes in it. But it's still like it still feels okay there. And then it's just this thing feels like you're in a borderline like a warehouse watching. You know what it feels like? It feels like that video they showed where the two people are riding the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster, and it's not the coaster that we'll be on because the coaster track was built somewhere else first to test. It's like that. It's like we are in a testing facility and they were just testing it and then they were like, let people in, it's fine. And I don't want that to be the future of Disney attractions. There's no theming, there's no thought to it, there's nothing to it. They just stuck some leftover things and were like, we can make it. You would think, yeah, that's fine because we live in a COVID world now where we're not going to get new incredible thing like Galaxy's Edge was it. I'm sorry. And it is just sad to me to think that now that could be the future of like the type of attractions that we could get. And it feels very, not circus. It feels like a fair, like a setup. Like it was popped up, showed up in the field overnight. You can go, you'll enjoy yourself, buy a ticket, watch it. And then like someday it'll collapse and move on. It doesn't feel like it I don't know.
Well, and I don't know what the rewritability, I don't know that it has any, not that there's a ride, but if it is, Disney puts it into the category of attractions. So if you're going to do that, then, okay, what's our rewritability for this attraction? There really is not any, because it is going to be the same show every time. And it's cute. And if you have a kiddo who, sorry for people who don't like kiddo, if you have a child who likes Lightning McQueen, likes Chick Hicks, wants to see them up on the screens, then fantastic. They're going to have that, but then it's done. It's a one and done. But even if you're not going to go to the attraction, I do suggest walking back there. So where it's placed, it's just beyond Rock and Roller Coaster. You get some really neat views that if, while those gates are open, that you get to have of Tower of Terror. You just don't get to see it from that vantage point very often. And it's a really neat spot to stop and take a picture because you get to see it from the other side.
Yeah.
So
I think for me, the analogy I have is Cali River Rapids is to Grizzly River Run as Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy is to Cars Land.
Oh, Ryno. Amen, brother.
Yeah. So that's what I need people to understand there. So yeah, and now like you've said, the park has come a long way. It just, the scary part is that what didn't even open that long ago. It's not like this ride opened like years ago or whatever. I mean, I guess it's been like a year or two, maybe. I don't even know if it's been two, but it's just, it was one of those things where I was like, don't you dare let this be the thing where they test the water for stuff like this in the future. Because here's the thing, people, I feel like, can get very, defensive of Disney, and I want to be like, it's a corporation, it's not a person, and on top of that, you are a consumer. You have purchased the price of a ticket, which it now is exorbitantly higher than it used to be, and you have a right to demand a certain level of, like, that's what you're buying into, right? And so I feel like it treads the line of it being kind of one of those what's the expression? We hoodwinked or something, where you're bait and switch sort of a situation. Like, and and I'm glad to see that we've had some amazing attractions going there, like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I do enjoy Toy Story Land, and I do think that was a park that when I worked there, didn't really have anything to offer too much for kids other than whatever was where it wasn't Bear the Big Blue Couch. It was Disney Junior, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, no. And the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground.
Right, yeah. Where you'd always, inevitably, one kid every hour is going to cut their head open on something in there.
Or get lost.
A disaster. Yeah. Yep. Always lost.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. But yeah, it's okay. Like you said, it's okay when this is a consumable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You get to go in, you get to consume whatever they're going to give you for the day. And it's okay to look at something and go, you know what? Some things are my favorite. And then there are other things that just are not. And yeah, it was, I felt like it was fairly easy to come up with things, but, yeah, I'm glad I had to stop and think about it. I'm glad I didn't immediately have five things.
Yeah. I think your consumable analogy is great, because I would say we all have a favorite restaurant or a favorite bar, and every now and then we go to those favorite places. Well, maybe not now, but we used to, go to one of these places. Every now and then the meal is not as good as sometimes you have a bad meal every now and then, and it still can be your favorite restaurant. That doesn't change the fact that it's your favorite restaurant. So, well, there you have it. Obviously, I am sure people are going to be livid with some of these choices. I don't know if livid. I don't know that there's any of these were the hill to die on, but we would love to hear what anybody who is watching or listening this, what your least favorite attraction is in each park. I would really be curious about that. I honestly, I bet some people are going to say People Mover, I think, at Magic Kingdom. I don't agree with it, but I could see it, but yeah, so we need to hear what your opinions are. So please leave comments. If you like this video, obviously hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. There'll be, there's plenty of content on here. And also don't forget that we have plenty of other channels now too. So this is new. So if you're looking for dining, we have the Disney Dining Show. We have the DVC channel. We have, the DCL channel. So all that kind of content. So that way, if you were worried about subscribing before, where you're like, well, I only like 2/3 of what's on here, or a third of what's on here. Well, now it's being really whittled down. So Think about that when you go to hit that subscribe button. And the next time that you're planning a Disney vacation, we do ask that you please book with Dreams Unlimited Travel. It costs you nothing extra on your vacation. They're experts over there. And of course, it does help support the show and all the content that we produce here and put up on those various channels and our sites and everything like that. So thank you, Deni, for having this conversation with me.
Thanks for having me along for the worst attraction. I was going to say for the ride, but the worst ride.
Yeah. Thanks for dragging me. No, yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you again, everybody out there, for listening and watching. And we'll be back with another episode of the best and worst of Walt Disney World. Bye, everybody.